to you a second, and then I'll hopefully have sorted my
Yourself
wife
out.
out.
Yes, well, I'm Davina, and I am a postnatal fitness personal trainer, and I've been doing that for I don't want to say how long. 5 was when I was qualified, so 20 years.
No
Yeah,
way. Wow.
I don't feel old enough to have been doing something for 20
No,
years. No.
exactly.
Obviously, I've gained a lot of experience along the way. 20 years ago, I didn't have any children, so my take on pre and postnatal training was very different then. Plus, the industry has changed massively in that time.
Yeah.
So when I initially got those qualifications, I sort of, I understood, and of course, what the information that was out there at the time was, oh my goodness, it was nothing like how it is now, and the research that's gone on in the past, over the past, definitely the past 10-15 years, has been absolutely massive, and a big game changer for women's health in general, not just within the fitness industry, of course, but so and it was very, things like training a pregnant woman, don't let their heart rate go over a certain amount, don't let their arms go above their head, and ridiculous things so what happens in the rest of their life when they have to put something in a top shelf? It didn't make sense whatsoever. Or if you've already got a baby, how are you going to not lift X amount, only lift 5 pounds after giving? It's kind of really silly, right? So the things have moved a lot further than that, which is thank goodness. And then I had my first baby 10 years ago, and then quite quickly afterwards had a second one. Not the best plan.
You live and learn, eh? You live and learn.
I won't be doing that again. So that's what propelled me into my own little journey, obviously, and how I was going to navigate that, and the things that I personally experienced. And on the scale of things going wrong, it wasn't massively bad, as it were, but I still suffered a lot. I still, I hate the word traumatized by it, but the women that I come across, that's often a word that is used, right?
Yeah.
Which is sad in itself. And I've said to you before, haven't I, when I read the women's stories, it can be, it brings me to tears a lot of the time, which is quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Go through. So I had my own experience with things going not as planned, and the aftermath being not how I expected. I'm an ex-professional dancer, so I absolutely expected to bounce back. And what was all this? What was all that?
Right.
Here and gain the strength back, and things not looking the same, things not feeling the same. And really, there not being any decent help out there.
Yeah.
Which there really wasn't. There was help out there, but you didn't know where to go for it. Certainly in this country, I'm not going to sit here and bash the NHS, because they do wonderful things, but there are massive gaps there that, moving forward, women deserve better. We deserve better on that immediate aftercare of what goes on.
Yeah.
And even before that, I always say that I would love to meet women just before they become pregnant, before that, to then help them through the pregnancy, getting them in the right sort of mindset, the right frame, and what to expect in the right way, help them train properly throughout the pregnancy to minimize the, I hate saying it in a scary way, but the worst parts of the aftermath of the postpartum period, which is absolutely preventable, a lot of the things that women experience. And that's the saddest thing for me, which is really what drives me to do what I do, because so much of it is preventable. And it's like, if only women knew. Well, we're trying to just, we're trying to get it out there, and battling against, stigma, and how it's been for generations is another big thing as well, because obviously you're going to listen to what your aunt says and your mum says and your says, and expect this and expect that. So of course, you know, you expect it. You expect the incontinence, and you expect the leaking, and you expect the pain, and all of that, which doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So I went a bit off track there, didn't I?
No. It's really interesting though, because I think a lot of it ties into, so obviously week 1 of the Postnatal Pod, sharing birth stories, did the live last week with midwife Pippa, and talking about why I've, within the last kind of decade of me doing this work, supporting really mums, I would say, through that kind of 4th trimester, what do we call a 4th trimester, you know, so those 4 kind of first 6, 12 plus 18 whatever plus weeks, and how again that impact of others, whether it's friends, family, like you said, or we'll come on to it, the big ones, social media, but also how it all kind of relates, where we talked a little about in that session of really as women we should be kind of maybe talking about all of this more, but then at the same time it's, you know, you don't want to kind of scare anyone into anything or kind of put a dampener on it as well. And I think this comes down to, similarly like last week with birth, you don't know until you've gone through it, and actually each birth could be different as well. So, you know, it's massive, isn't it? That
it is massive, and I think that there needs to be more conversation around it, and more links between each of the people that, you know, obviously I'm from a fitness side, but the midwives, you know, everyone, it needs to be a bigger conversation. And you know, one could argue that generations past, if you know, the daughter in a family, you might well have been sat in on the birth of another family member. You would have been, it would have been rallied around, the women would have been all around in the same room. You know, one could argue that we've been a bit, it's more of a sensitive subject because we're not sort of privy to those things nowadays, and there's a lot of scaremongering about it, you know, going to hurt and all of that. I mean, that's not, obviously I'm not trying to step outside of my my expertise, but I recognize how much plays a part in it. And people, by the time people get to me, they're already traumatized and they already think it's a problem that they can't fix. So trying to break down those barriers and those walls is a big deal. I mean, I've come from a pure just training, I want to lose weight and I want to fix that, I want to fix that, you know, that's in, but it's much bigger than that, and it goes much deeper than that with so many women. The majority of women that I've trained over, you know, definitely over the past 10 years, it's much deeper than that, and there's so many challenges that come with it. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so with having you as part of the Postnatal Pod, I mean, you know, like I've said to you so many times, you know, first of all, thank you, because it's amazing.
Thank you for organising it.
Oh, you're welcome. Really important that it absolutely should be that this follows on straight after the birth sessions. So week 2 is with yourself. I've always, whichever specialist, I've been lucky enough to work with loads and loads of specialists over the years, whether that was when I was running these up in Hertfordshire or back down here. So yeah, it absolutely goes straight after, because first of all, you know, we're aware of then those birth stories we've already talked about in last week. So I just did a conference actually up at Chelmsford University talking about the 4th trimester period, and the challenges of, because of the way not just the maternity services are, I mean, that plays a big part, the whole medical kind of world that we live in now, but so many other factors, which is completely another Instagram live in itself. But what we are seeing, we cannot get away from the fact, and you are aware of this having done these postnatal pods with me, is there are more and more interventions, and actually perhaps for those mums who haven't needed the intervention, the other side of the scale is the kind of fast labours, which then poses a whole set of you know, things to get over as well. So when we start the postnatal pod, you introduce yourself. You know, you've got years of experience, but also what is perfect is you are a mum yourself. So the first thing we do is ask just quickly, although I have given you a kind of synopsis of the information from the mums within the first week, but a quick kind of go around the circle of the mums of where they're at, and kind of their fitness journey. Sometimes we'll talk about beforehand, if especially, you know, someone who has been active before pregnancy. And then we start talking about, okay, let's go into the C-sections, because that's usually, we've got quite a large number of ladies who've got C-sections or some sort of interventions. So shall we start with that?
Yes. And you mean what goes on and how that can affect?
Yeah.
And actually the last two pods we did, there was more C-sections than anything else,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I get that, you know, obviously I'm not going to step on that. I'm not speaking out of turn, you know, because I'm not obviously a medical practitioner, but it's an alarming rate that keeps going up.
Yeah.
And yes, you know, a lot of the women do say, well, it was an emergency, or, you know, there was no way anything else could have happened. And again, that's a whole Instagram live in itself. Like,
yeah,
why is this happening now? Is it just that there's a global fear mongering of and what the best sort of option is, with a lot the people thinking that it's the best option, not that it is or it isn't. You know, every story is different. Sure. Of course, if mother or baby is in danger, that's a whole nother set of rules. But yes, they do. You know, each intervention poses its own risk if they're not risk, the wrong word, but challenge, what it can cause, whether you've, you know, the emergency C-section. Obviously there's a difference between an emergency and elective C-section. Ideally it would be an elective where everybody's ready and nothing's done in a rushed way.
Yep.
But you know, and the statistics are, you know, I deal a lot, people come to me with pelvic floor dysfunction, so the statistics are that, you know, there is a higher chance of you having some sort of pelvic dysfunction if you've given birth vaginally. So then people are immediately like, well, I don't want to do that. Yeah. But also that doesn't mean it's worse or better, you know, than wanting a C-section, because then you're essentially, you know, that's a big wound that you're inflicting upon layers of tissue, and recovery from that. And if you look at any other place on your body, if that amount of trauma was done to it, it would be a huge operation and a huge and it is a huge operation and it is a huge recovery. Some women obviously heal quite well and quickly, and, you know, different rates, but in terms of the scar and the scar tissue, and the same for scars and scar tissue, with episiotomies, and tear. And again, even with that, tearing just because it's not prepared, the area isn't prepared, it's worse than having an episiotomy. But people are very scared about episiotomies. Oh no, I couldn't have that. But in a situation, it might be better that your practitioner performs that on you. Yeah. Something that doesn't, I asked, you know, I lived abroad for a long time and I've been back for nearly 4 years now. And, you know, I often ask, did when women come with either tears or episiotomies or C-sections, have you been told about scar massage? No, I don't know anything about that. I can't even believe that there isn't even just a leaflet handed out saying. I
know, it's insane.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, I had, so 12 years ago this week, I had my elective C-section because baby was breech. And like you said, you know, look, I knew it was all going to play, so mentally I could kind of prepare as much as I could for that. Recovery was, I guess, as straightforward as I think it should have been, but it was bloody hard. And even now, because I was never told, and I have known over the years from doing this work about C-section massage, I still, it's still, you know, it's numb in that area, like I did a Pilates class this morning, and even now, all these years on,
Still feel.
certain moves, I'm like, oh shit, no, I can't do that. I can feel it deep within that core area. So a couple of things with that. If we can first touch on, you mentioned pelvic floor dysfunction. So I want to kind of have that explained just for anyone who needs it. And then, yeah, let's talk about C-section recovery massage, because I'm shocked still. I say it every single postnatal pod, but considering that was my experience 12 years ago, how it literally has not moved on at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm blown away by it as well, because I don't know if, this isn't even anything to compare it to. It's slightly off track, but one of my best friends, years and years ago, she had a breast reduction. Right. So talking like 15 years ago, right? And she wanted me to be there at the time, and the surgeon afterwards told her about scar massage for the scar, and I'm like, and I often think back to it, and I think, okay, so this is a breast reduction. She needed one, and they're telling them that for your upper half. What about it? Because it's just that's what happens, like, oh well, we're supposed to give birth, so off you go, there you go, sort it out. Yeah. The crazy part of it is that, people often forget that it's not just one layer. There's so many layers that you cut through, and often they're not all horizontal. There are, depending on how it goes down, emergency, skin is really stretched, to get the baby out. I don't know if you've ever watched one live. It can be quite horrific. Amazing, that medical stuff still amazes me, but
of course, yeah,
be quite, it's a lot. And every layer of the tissue, 7 layers or something, has to heal. They only show up the outside layer. So the numbness that people feel may not be the outside, it may be something on the inside. And as time goes along, the thing with any tissue that is cut is that as it lays it down, it becomes thicker and less less pliable. That's the word. Normal skin, if you pull it, it moves. If I pull from here, this part moves as well. So with any scar, you can yank on it and it doesn't move. And so that's what we're looking for. So you can never start, you can always affect a scar, no matter how many years have gone by, of better, closer to the time. What we say is wait till the scar is fully healed, and then you can start massaging. But even before that, people message me and they say, what can I do? Just massive belly breaths, stretching the tummy. So you're breathing in, letting your tummy being as big as possible, and then letting it fall again. That in itself is a stretch for it, right? All the tissue, so it becomes as pliable as all the tissue around it. Because if that gets tighter and tighter, and all the adhesions get tighter and tighter, we every part of our body is connected, right? So those tissues will then, guess what they're attached to? Your pelvic floor. And that's how a C-section can then end up having an impact on your pelvic floor, and you getting pelvic floor dysfunction, because it's pulling on the pelvic floor muscles and the tissue. That might not happen in the first year, because you're healing, but it might happen 15 years later. And why am I leaking? What's going on here? And it could just be because of the result of that. Not always, of course, but this is how it happens. And I have the great blessing of being able to have trained many women from, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, post, years later. So years later, women coming to me in their 60s and their 70s and be like, why do I have a prolapse? Well, let's back it up a little bit. What happened when you gave birth? And when did you first notice these symptoms? So it might not have an impact now. So as you say, people that have fast, easy labors and then have no issues, it's not a case of, well, you may never have issues. And that as well, that conversation, not wanting to scare women, understanding of it needs to be out there, because we still live in a society where men and women joke all the time about tenor lady leaking when you shampoo, if I hear one more mum who's younger than me saying they won't go on a trampoline, it drives me up the wall. You know, there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason that any woman of any age couldn't go on a trampoline and not leak. You know?
Absolutely. Right. So a couple of things I want to go for there. Right. So with C-sections, I think there's this real misconception. I certainly thought it, because second time round I did manage to have vaginal birth after cesarean. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a full. I wanted to experience labour. Let's say I definitely experienced labour. It was an induction, all the rest of it. But yeah, again, another story. But massive, massive high from that. However, when I had my elective C-section again, I don't know if this is still the case, but no education about really what to expect, which is why I love in your session with the postnatal pod, you've got these amazing slides. It shows all the layers. You talk through the layers. You've got your pelvic floor, the pelvis model, so we can talk all about this education that we just don't get. I think there's this misconception, though, like I said, about if you've had a C-section, because you haven't birthed your baby vaginally,
no problem.
Well, yeah, no problem, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, explain that. Well, you kind of did anyway, but
yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. People forget that a lot of the, you know, of course, I'm coming in from the fitness side where I'm thinking about someone's glutes and their hamstrings and their hip flexors and how all that is working together to keep them strong. Come back to the flat bottom thing in a minute, but the whole time you're pregnant, one, your pelvis is like shifting forward and forward, so you're getting a different action on the pelvic floor, but the weight of the baby is pushing down and sitting on your pelvic floor. So yes, you know, whatever the safe amount of weight that we can all put on, depending on whether you're this small or up or put on the higher amount, doesn't matter. It's still extra weight that you weren't carrying before. And it's weight like you, when we put on weight, we generally put it on everywhere, don't we? So it's just weight straight on our pelvis, sitting forward, so our back arches, we end up with this nice big curve at the back. Guess what? Hello back pain. Glutes can't functionally, pelvic floor can't work functionally, so then hamstrings can't, inner thighs can't, and this is where I love the conversation of how fit can we become before pregnancy to help you afterwards. So this is why strength training is so important. You know, so important for every single stage, because it will literally minimize what goes on in the aftermath. And it's a lovely shift that we've had over the last 10 years because more women are strength training.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's been a real shift.
There has been a massive shift. And I think because especially the women who are, say, in mainstream media, like your CrossFit athletes, because they're in their 30s, mid to late 30s now, having babies. They're the ones that have been doing the big fitness stuff, big lifting over the past 10 years, gotten to such a high degree, and they're breaking all these barriers. And people are like, what? So this is possible? Absolutely is possible. Of course, not everybody's going to be that level of an athlete, but it does show that if you're doing probably more than what your mum did or your granny did, you're going to be in a much better position by the time you get to their age. You know? So, but yeah, sorry, I went off track again. I'm not good at it.
That's all right. I do all the time as well, don't worry.
So the C-section stuff. Yeah, well, yeah. So there's obviously the weight on your pelvic floor, so that doesn't discount you from getting floor dysfunction. Yes, the statistics show that yes, you're more likely to have pelvic floor dysfunction, which of course is, you know, incontinence, whether that's you know, back end or front end. Obviously DR, so your diastasis recti. Where
just explain what those are for anyone who might not realise.
So we have our six-pack muscle. Everybody has a six-pack muscle.
I know, at every single session. I mean, I've got my acronatal tonight and I talk about this and they're like, no, it's like, you know, you never provide six-pack to any woman, let alone a pregnant woman, and it's like, no, don't have a six-pack. Yeah, under there we do somewhere.
You know, everybody in the world, it's actually an 8-pack, but we call it a 6-pack. That the muscles are there, just whether they're visible is down to how big they are. So how not even, I'm not going to use the word tone, how big they are and how much fat percent you have over the top. That's literally it, whether it's visible or not. Everybody has one. So the six-pack muscle has to separate. So 100% of women get a DR by the time they give birth. You cannot grow a baby without the separation of the muscles. And even that, do you know how many people are blown away by that fact? You know, like,
it's crazy.
Why is this not, I don't know, part of
it? Should be in the education system. I mean, all of this stuff, we should be, both girls and boys, from a primary level. Because the other massive thing that you mentioned in the session, and I do want you to talk about it a little bit here as well, is because, again, this blows people's minds, would not have even thought about it, getting to know ourselves down there.
I do talk about that a lot, don't I?
Do talk about that a lot.
How much am I allowed to talk about it?
You can talk about however much you like. I mean, you know, it's a Tuesday afternoon, but hey,
Tuesday afternoon, all right.
Okay,
well, I, you know, and this is my personality, stuff I've been through, and my interactions with women over the years, and it's a running factor. It just keeps coming back at me. You know, something I make most of my clients do, especially if they've come to me with some sort of challenge in the pelvic floor area, is I say straight out, when was the last time you looked at your vagina? When was the last time you gave her a good look? And they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. So I really like challenging people like that. I like sort of, you know, just doing that.
Let's do this. Get that mirror out.
Go into the bathroom and have a look. My argument would be, if you don't know yourself and you do have an issue, how are you going to know when you fixed it, basically? And there's very much, I always joke, you know, you ask a man if they had to pick themselves out of a lineup, they'd be absolutely and they'd be like, that one. Not so much. But so why do we have this whole, oh no, I can't look, I can't, no, it's disgusting. Just the other day, my new, I won't shout her out, but you know, I have a new client in my class, and she's like, absolutely not, no, absolutely, it's disgusting, it's absolutely disgusting, there's no way I could look. And that's a very big a common factor that I find. Women are absolutely disgusted by what, the scar, maybe their C-section scar, and then the whole of their vulva. They just, it's so, isn't that sad? Really like that sad. So,
and then of course, I mean, again, not for today, we can talk about this another time, but then the impact of relationships. You know, how many women after they've had birth, you know, the sex life hasn't been the same, or you know, it's taken a long time to get back in a relationship,
or it's painful. That's a big thing.
Oh, I can't hear you now. Oh, no, I can.
Oh, am I back?
Just as it's getting juicy.
Getting juicy. Yeah, no, and that does have an impact. And again, the talking about it, this assumption that sex will be painful afterwards, and of learning and talking about it, and that it's okay. You don't need to try straight away, and the tissues are healing, and this whole 6-week period, that like the magic 6-week mark, and everything, even that we're suddenly allowed to, you know, women say here that what happened in your 6-week appointment? Did they check you? Did they check your DR? No, they just asked me if I was ready to have sex again, and do I need contraception?
Little tick box.
What?
Yeah. And again, in our postnatal pod sessions, I think the women themselves are just shocked by that. They're like, hang on, I was expecting a hands-on, check my tummy, you know, how things are looking down there, perhaps. Not a chance.
Yeah. And why isn't it, why because if I'd broken my leg, or I'd broken my ankle, and I went back to my checkup, they'd be like, right, can you stand on it? Can you do this? Can you lift your leg? And you'd also have physio that you've been referred to. Again, why isn't this a thing? Like, I know in some parts in Europe, they definitely, in France, they get just 10 sessions of physio, box standard, no matter what sort of birth you've had.
I know. Incredible.
And here you don't. I can count on two hands how many women have been referred to a postnatal physio, and maybe half of those, when I say, and what did she say? Did she have a look? Did she do an internal? No. So, wait, so you have a prolapse and she didn't even do an internal examination?
And this is where then
worry
of course it's private, but things like the Mummy MOTs, amazing out there,
massively important.
So important. And again, having had my C-section, no idea. Yet when I'd had my second and knowing that I wasn't going to have any more vaginal birth, that was one of the first things I wanted to do. Like at a point was, right, let's go and get this Mummy MOT. This is an investment in me and the rest of my life and so many other things. And it's just so many women don't even know about this stuff, which is where the postnatal pod is just amazing, because it's such important information that we should know, but we just don't. To normalize all of this as well, to talk about the great work that women physios are doing, the amazing research that's going on. Like you said, we'll come on to the old women with the flat bums, and why we're kind of seeing that now. Since you mentioned that, it's just everywhere now.
I feel a superpower of mine. I can look at people's bums and know how their pelvic floor is functioning. And it is so important. And women ask me all the time, where has my bum gone after pregnancy? Why has it just disappeared? And it is a sort of a hazard of pregnancy because of the weight in the front, and the bum gets very tight, sort of tucked under a little bit. Because the pelvic floor is overworked, because it's not overworked, that's the wrong way to say it, but it's supporting a lot of weight. So the bum's trying to help out, the top bit of the bum gets really tight. And in that way, the bum can't, the glutes, they can't function as well as they would function normally. And we could dial that back even more, that if you weren't training in a certain way before that, or just being functionally strong, then you're going to struggle with that. And then argue, is that why we're seeing more back issues? Is that why pelvic girdle pain is worse for you? Because you weren't globally strong beforehand. And I love that conversation, because I wish I could come back and go back to, say, my great grandmother's time, to be like, they were on their feet more. Those women were on their feet more, so they would have been more naturally just up and down, carrying children. They wouldn't have been driving as much, all of that sort of stuff. Versus to, say, our mother's generation going into the workforce. I'm not knocking that at all. We like that change, but have we then dialed back the amount of work we're doing? Are we sitting more on our bum so we aren't globally as strong? We're now living longer, so I teach an over 50s class as well, and how many broken bones, fractured hips, and we're living longer as well. So even more important that we have to stay strong in our early years before we hit. So it's layer upon layer upon layer, and that's why I love what I do, because there's so many layers to it.
It's so interesting, isn't it? And again, like I said, I think it's brilliant in these sessions, and the work you're doing outside of the postnatal pod with all your fitness as well is explaining this, with either just talking, or the slides, or your visual models, recommendations, signposting, all of that, word of mouth. Here in the area, we always talk about the great physios and wellbeing specialists we've got, and what's available on offer. And there is a lot, just need to know about it. One of the things, so again, a couple of things to mention. So
sorry, I was just going to cover the getting to know yourself.
Go on. Yes.
Well, just that. I mean, yes, obviously I talk about knowing yourself, knowing your whole vulva, which I think is very important. And, we could go further into that, this is obviously a massive portion of painful sex as well, which is a big part of what I do. I don't talk about it as much. I'm learning how to do that on social media, but it is a massive portion of what I do, because women are embarrassed to say out loud, yes, Davina, you fixed my sex life.
Right.
I'm like, oh, good, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
But you know, this is a big part of what I do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of partners out there thankful that whoever's come your way, they're like, yes.
But also the C-section, you know, talking about the C-section scars and people just being, oh no, I can't touch it. Too disgusting. You know, and we could go much deeper into that, into if that's how your body is interacting with that part of you, how is it going to heal? How is it going to really heal? You know, getting to know yourself. So sometimes I give homework to girls, just literally just massage your whole belly. Don't even worry about the scar. Just do the whole, just touch your belly. Just get used to your hands on it. Because if you're not okay with it, how the heck is anybody else? How are you going to let it?
So true. And again, you know, who does that until prompted, really, you know? So
yeah,
it's a lot, isn't it? Now, pardon?
What were you going to say that I interrupted?
I was going to say about, so there may be some who are watching this back and thinking, oh yeah, but I mean, I know this would have been me. I never really went to the gym. I don't know what to do, and now I've got the baby, and it's just tough. And you know, I started a buggy fit class, I remember, which I actually, considering I'm not someone who I would have said back then was particularly fit or gym kind of. I did a lot of surfing when I lived abroad, so that was great. I didn't class that as exercise, certainly not going to the gym, you know. So, and there is such a kind of push now, whether that's on social media, whether that's again women talking, and it's great. There's so much more content out there, but at the same time, it can be quite daunting. Well, either daunting to think, oh, hang on, you know, I don't want to step into a gym, like, oh my God, or yeah, but I've got this baby. When is it safe, and how do I juggle this with lack of sleep, like, you know, having baby in tow, can barely lift the bloody car seat into this high vehicle. So again, giving you a lot to kind of
go through. Yeah, and I mean that you know, shameless plug, but that's why I started up my mum and baby classes, because no matter what stage of fitness you were beforehand, or not, you know, you can come to the class, bring your baby, stick the baby down, and just at least get some sort of a workout, even if it's too easy for you. You know, some of the women that come through the class, it is too easy for them, but they don't have any childcare. So next best thing. Some women, it's the first thing they've ever really done. So it's a great introduction. Some people are returning to fitness and don't really know how to do and what to do. You know, and I can go through the different sorts of people. If you've been training beforehand, you know, someone like myself, then you're globally strong, but section isn't necessarily. So there's things that you think that you should be able to do because my arms and my legs can take it, but my tummy can't. And then you start to realize, oh, this is where the core strength actually comes in, and how much my core was helping me before, and reconnect to it. I talk about reconnecting to the core quite a lot, because as you're become bigger during pregnancy, we tend to lose that connection. There's a lot of viral videos out there that you see of pregnant women pulling their tummy in and making themselves not look pregnant. I don't know if you've seen any.
I've seen that. Well,
I mean, that in a way is a sign that you're still connected to your inner core unit.
Is it? So because it's so weird. I'm like, oh
yeah. It just shows that you can still activate your TVA and the obliques to activate it, to be able to pull it in. I can't speak. I've been told that it's not dangerous for the baby, but again, I'm not, you know, I'm not a medical person. So, but you know, they do that a lot in yoga poses. But when I train women throughout their pregnancy, I do make sure that they stay connected to their core, because once you sort of lose that, then you know that then afterwards the signals from up here to down, they cut off a little bit. So you do need to reconnect to that, and it is that sort of reconnecting in general to the new body. I hate bounce back to what? Back to what you were when you were 20. Like,
exactly.
Why are we bouncing back? This is that whole rhetoric of like, well, I have to be the same as I was then, but you're not the same. You're not the same person. You're now a mother, and you've
exactly.
grown up
So,
human who's perfect with 2 eyes and 2 hands, you know, like it's I know people want to be that, and it's a big shift for people. I get it, I do get it. But yeah, the returning to fitness, so there's definitely, depending on what you're wanting to do, and whether for me personally, whether you're coming through my class or whether you're coming to me as a private client. Obviously private clients we can work a lot, you know, more specific about if it's wanting to get back to them specific running exercises and all of that. There is a sort of, you know, a system we go through, and making sure the glutes are firing up properly and working efficiently to support the whole pelvis. And at the same time, the uterus is shrinking back down. Has the bleeding stopped? Are you breastfeeding? Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough? Are you, you know, there's so many factors here. And you know, do you have the support at home? You might have home, they might not be very supportive. Do you have people actively going against you and not helping out? You know, lots of factors at play here. Sleep being of your healing generally. So if you don't get decent sleep, how are you going to heal?
Exactly. And again, we bring this up if both in, well, in pretty much in every session of the postnatal pod. I mean, you know, we can talk about how certain celebrities or influencers maybe birth, you know, they have that private doula or support afterwards, postnatal doula. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it would be absolutely amazing if everyone had that. Same for recovery wise. You know, if someone's got a private chef, a night nanny, a doula, whatever it might be, you know,
that makes the difference.
That makes the difference. They have that in place, because let's face it, that is their livelihood. I mean, you know, they I guess if they're needing to get back to their work, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's right or wrong kind of to portray it like it is as well. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, social media's got a lot to answer for in every sense.
And society as well, I think. Society,
absolutely,
because we're supposed to just be able to do it all ourselves. That, you know, he has gone, the village has gone. We don't have
gone. I mean, and how long ago was it that phrase that was termed what was it, too posh to push? I mean, you know, we haven't, that's got to be coming up to about 10 years at least. I mean, it was posh and Bex, wasn't it? I mean, let's see how old their kids are. Has it really evolved? Not really. I mean, there's some great work being done, but equally, again, I think until somebody's gone through their pregnancy, birth, postnatal recovery, you don't know until you're there.
No. And then you add on the factors on top of it. Do you have a supportive partner? Do you have a supportive family? Can you cook? You know, can you cook is a big deal of how your recovery is going to go. What nutrition are you getting?
Or
do
even
you drink normally?
Cook, you know, can you be asked? Can you actually sit down for 5 minutes to eat the bloody stuff? I mean, that's
Do you have more children? Is this child 1, child 3, and your eldest one is autistic, and you know, like there are factors here that play a part. I mean, you know, I lived in Singapore for years, and in Asia they have something called a confinement period, which basically the first 3 months you do not leave the house. I think, you know, nowadays obviously they leave the house, but traditionally they don't. The mother doesn't leave the house. Every female in the family, they take it in turns. They come, they do these amazing like collagen broths and, you know, bone broths. I know you have a nutritionist talk, don't you? Again, slightly my area, but not massively my area. But knowing that what you put into your body to heal it faster, nutrition plays a massive part.
And so hydration as well.
Yes, exactly. You won't heal the fast. So those collagen broths, they basically are there to just eat, sleep, feed the baby, repeat for 3 months. No stress put on them. And I think this show that postnatal depression is very low in Asia. I wonder why. If you have that natural care, and you know what it's like. We're like, when are you going back to work? Because, you know, not wanting to say we've what's the saying, stuck a rod up to, you know, I'm all for women working, not just being mummy at home, but we find the balance.
Yeah.
The balance, there has to be the support for that. And a lot of, you know, a lot of women come across my path who are in committed relationships, but the support isn't there because what the support looks like, even that the women themselves don't really know what they need, you know. And sleep, you know, sleep is hard. And so I rise to that challenge all the time, because before I really focused on the postnatal training, very easy to just, there's your program, I need you to train 4 times a week, do this, this and this, and guess what, you get the results in 12 weeks. The majority of clients I have now, it's like, we're lucky if we get 1 session a week, because life, baby's sick, they're sleepy, you know, this.
Exactly.
So the progress is much, much slower. The point is they're doing it. And I think that's what I try to tell my girls all the time. The point is that you're doing it. Come a year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, when they're in nursery, if you don't have another baby in that time, then you know, then you can sort of rack it up a little bit. But there has to be this period where you give yourself some grace.
Absolutely. And I think as well, coming to a class like yours, you know, because there are some great programs that you can do online as well, which, you know, I can see the benefit of those, certainly. But I think coming to a physical in-person class, when you're able to, you know, again, you've got that support network of other mums, you've got the safety element and aspects around it, you have got years and years of personal experience, but also, you know, your qualifications, because I think it's very easy as well for people to say, yeah, I'm pre and postnatal qualified now, or I've had a baby and I've done my postnatal training now, or my pregnancy training, so, you know, come to my class. But again, you know, there's not kind of maybe that hands-on assessment or checking the tummy separation, or, you know, we hear it all the time in our postnatal pod, don't we, week in, week out. I'm starting to do this, or I'm doing that, or and again, there's not
the information out there.
There's not information out there necessarily, or it's so mixed messages as well. Like with breastfeeding, you know, one person will say one thing, and then another will say, "We'll do this, or try that, or do," and it becomes really kind of difficult to tunnel vision what. I mean, I guess people have got to find what's right for them. But where can they start? So let's say we've got somebody sitting here watching this thinking, right, okay, yeah, this is all really interesting, I don't know a lot of this stuff, I'd love to do something with Davina, but I can't get to Dawlish, or so what would you say, like, in terms of that?
Well, I always like to chat to anybody who's new, you know, and find out what the situation is, because again, that plays a huge part, what their current situation is, what their personal challenges are. Childcare, can they get private training or not, or is it a case of trying to get to a class? I've been toying with doing the same sort of classes, but just online, just like I did in COVID times, and just doing classes, because there are so many people that message and either can't get Dawlish. I do some in Dawlish at the gym, and I do one in Holcombe, which is it's not new now, but I've been doing it quite a few weeks, which is really popular because it's not in a gym. That's the other thing. I want it popular because it's not in a gym. Which makes me sad in a way, because I want to show women that the gym isn't as scary as they really think it is. But I do get it as well, why they don't want to go in the gym. Yes, obviously I do the classes, and I do private in-person training. I much prefer in-person training because I get more out of it, and I get to see the person who's in front of me. But I do online training as well, and set people programs. But it doesn't always, especially for this sect of people, where you're going to be distracted because the baby, the kids, the food needs, husband needs this, and there's no socks. You know, there's too much distraction. So whereas before, training people who that wasn't that age, you know, the age of the kids, much easier because you can hunker down a bit more. But
absolutely,
quite hard for new mums to get in that mindset of doing something at home. So I would still encourage people to join a gym or join a class to just, there are, you know, like around your way, there are more classes that you can join and bring your baby to. I think that I know one of my clients used to go to a spinning class somewhere in Exeter that she used to take.
Yeah, there's like, there's quite a lot in Exeter effects to surrounding, but as well, you know, for like, I can remember after having my C-section, you know, just needing to take it really gentle and just, you know, being really gutted that, I mean, baby was March born, so I was thinking, oh great, you know, come like another few months, I'll be back able to wear all my nice summer clothes and stuff. Well, that didn't happen. I was still living in my horrible bloody leggings for like months and months and months. And so actually it was just, you know what, just get out, just even just the walk with the buggy, just you know, you feel better for it. The fresh air, you know, it's very easy to sit in, and I you know, I had to like push myself to get out, you know, get out, get some daylight, especially on these lovely sunny days we're having now, which makes such a difference. So even that, I think, but I know you've got to go for the school run. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, or if anyone's got any questions, obviously I'm going to tag you. I know that you're more than happy for people to message you directly.
Always message me, especially with the subjects that I talk about. I put things up as posts and no one ever comments, but then I always get loads of private messages saying, what exactly we're talking about when you're talking about painful sex. You know, that's a big question, the painful sex one. It does directly tie in with everything that we do in the classes. Is incontinence, DRs, and you mentioned, you know, like how you feel and look after C-sections, you know, because remember, just because of C-section, the DR still applies, the diastasis recti, and years later come back and they're like, why do I still look pregnant? These are the reasons we want the DR. I didn't actually say about that, the DR, did I finish talking about that? The tissue in between the linea alba stretches, and for some women it closes straight back up, you know, other women it doesn't. Mine didn't between my two kids, and then it was very big after my second, so that was my personal struggle, so I was able to sort of heal that back together. The actual statistic is let me get this right, so I think 75% of women's DR will have closed within a 12-month period, but 25% won't. So I was 25%. Obviously a big one, it's not actually just the size, you know, and men can get these as well, you know, it's not just women. Men, if
so interesting, isn't it?
And they don't have a strong core, and you know, the stretching of the linea alba. So we're looking for the linea alba to be one, what the gap is. So we'll test it. I test everybody that comes through my classes, and then we're looking at the depth of it. So when we push down into it, how deep do my fingers go, and what does it feel like? So one, how deep is it? Lax? Is it like, you know, I would say like a wet piece of material? What to feel like a trampoline? So it's nice tensile strength. That shows the integrity of the muscle, of the tissue, sorry, is strong, and you're able to control the intra-abdominal pressure, which the more you do with your body, exercise or not, just carrying heavy things, that's wants for you. And those are the things that people don't necessarily correlate to why they don't feel strong, or, you know, in general life, why is it hard for me to carry this box? Why is it hard for me to, why do I get backache? These are all things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and picking up the baby's car seat, like we mentioned, I mean, they're heavy, and you know, but yeah, again, at the Postnatal Pod, you know, I know that a lot of mums take you up on that check during the session, and it's just brilliant that you're there able to answer any of their questions, or even if like they think, oh God, I forgot to ask that, that's one burning thing I was meant to ask about, and then, you know, to be able to just private message you or follow you on Facebook, Instagram, and next course is in June. So for anyone watching who's wanting to come along, bit of a longer gap. Normally don't go that long, but yeah. If anyone's got anything that they do want to ask, definitely get in touch with Davina. You know, check out her classes. And if you do take them online as well, again, then let me know and I can share all of that as well. But Yeah, thank
I
you
hope that
so
was
much.
helpful.
Brilliant. And let's hope, if nothing else, everyone's getting the mirror out
Yeah,
tonight and
yes, everyone get a mirror out, have a look, have a play.
having a
That's
little
what I would
look and
have a play.
there you go. We'll leave them with that.
Go forth. Enjoy
Thanks,
yourself.
Davina. Lovely to chat to you as well.
And you,
Again,
Rebecca.
always.
Soon.
I'm going to try
Bye.
and figure out how to turn this thing off
Yeah,
now.
now we're
Didn't do it last time.
going, I don't know how to do that.
I still can't. I still don't know how to turn it
All
off.
right, see you
Take
later.
care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Right, I've turned it around. I haven't turned it off.